Doug here from Odd Shopper, and it's time to break down some Monday Night Football action. So do me a favor as you come in, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. On paper, we don't have the best Monday Night Football game between the Green Bay Packers and the Los Angeles Rams, two teams that are unlikely to make the playoffs, but there's money to be won via bet. So we're going to break down that angle and give us some stuff to cheer for today. And also, a quick recap of the bets that we had from over the weekend. And I had 3 of them. It was, by the way, one of them, it almost happened again. So if you guys have been tailing my bets for a while, you know that for whatever reason, any running back we bet on, there's an injury scare at some point. Basically, all of them over the last couple of months. We were able to skirt one yesterday because I had Austin Eckler for over 40.5 rushing yards. He got hurt early in that game, ended up coming back, finished the game. So we did hit the over on his rushing prop. I had Paris Campbell for under 45.5 receiving yards, and then had one losing bet on Evan Ingram. I thought that his prop was set a little bit too high at 44 receiving yards. He ended up hitting the over on that mark, but either way, 3 bets, ended up going 2-1. No complaints about that at all. I'll take a profitable day or a profitable weekend any day of the week. So that's always nice. And if you guys want any more access, not just to myself, but all of the guys that we have here on the YouTube channel, we've got our premium betting Discord channel that you could get access to for free for 1 week by clicking on the link below. And if you've been considering signing up for it, you want to do that now, because at the end of the year, the start of next year, we're going to be doubling our price. But anybody who's signed up under the old price, you're going to get grandfathered in. So if you've been thinking about signing up for our Discord package, now's the time, and 1 week free access by clicking on that link below. Let's talk about Monday Night Football. These are my favorite prop bets for the game. So to start us off here, I'm going with Aaron Jones over 55.5 rushing yards. And I know that the Rams have a really good rush defense. In fact, they have one of the better rush defenses in all of the NFL. But I think injuries and game script are enough for Aaron Jones to be able to overcome this. For starters, there's no Aaron Donald tonight for the Rams. That makes a massive difference in this team's run defense. He's one of the best, if not the best defensive players that we have in the NFL. Generational type defensive tackle makes a massive difference on the line for the Rams. Without him there, this is a much easier matchup for Aaron Jones, but also just the game script. We've got the Packers very, very infrequent this year. Are they ever big favorites in a game? Or at least not since the start of the year. But for today, they are, and it's justified. The Rams have been all kinds of banged up. They're going to backup quarterbacks, backup quarterbacks. Cooper Kupp isn't in the mix for them. So the offense has struggled. As a result, we've got the Packers favored by 7.5 points today. With that being the case, I do anticipate Aaron Jones running the ball a whole bunch in the fourth quarter of this game as the Packers hold the lead and grind out the clock. So once again, the over-under for rushing yards is 55.5 for Aaron Jones. In our projections, we have him projected for 70.7. So good amount over that line. I'm taking the over as well. Aaron Jones over 55.5 rushing yards. We've got a new deal for you here today. BetMGM, new sponsor of the show. And when you sign up clicking on our link below and place a $10 deposit at BetMGM, they give you a $25 free bet for the holidays. So this offer is only going to be around for a week, and it's just really easy to take advantage of, especially if you're a new bettor and you're just looking to build a bankroll from not that much money. $10, $25 free bet, that's going to help you build up that bankroll. But if you're somebody who's a little bit more aggressive as a bettor, they are also going to be giving you a risk-free bet of up to $1,000. So your first bet will get refunded up to $1,000. So
Nice.
Love it. What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the Stokastic NFL DFS Monday Night Football live before lock, presented by No House Advantage. My name is Matt Savoca at Draftaholic, and we have got the Showdown Shaman back where he needs to be, talking leading up to kickoff of this Los Angeles Rams Green Bay Packers Showdown slate. Pretty exciting matchup, Neil. You guys know the man, the myth, the legend, at PlayerQDFS on Twitter, Neil Orfield. What's going on, man?
I mean, as I was telling you before the show, this game is just major implications for me for best ball. I'm pretty excited about that. I'm currently advancing 10 teams in Best Ball Mania. Some of them are very tentative. Like there's one where if Tyler Higbee gets 15 fantasy points, that team's going to be. There's one that has a few different. Actually, Sammy Watkins now just has Higbee and Akers that I need to fade them getting like 15 plus fantasy points, which. So some of them are very tentative, but I'm pretty excited to at least have a good chance to advancing like 7+ teams. So I'm going to be watching pretty closely from a best ball standpoint. I've never gotten a team to the finals in best ball, and this is now my third year playing. So in the first 2 years, I never got a team to the final. I would love to get one through this year. So hoping to have a high advance right here. Always love to see the Packers not doing so well. So hopefully the Rams can crush them here. It should be a fun showdown game.
A little bit of that Minnesota bias shining through. That's all right. That's all right. That's fair. What is it? My favorite teams are the Vikings and whoever's playing the Packers.
Exactly right.
So makes sense. And yeah, that was a pretty nice humble brag, I must say, my friend. Holy smokes. Sounds pretty good to me. And that's actually been one of the most fun parts about watching best ball playoff season right now, is like watching these teams that are advancing or have a chance to advance that are limping at certain positions. But hey, we all got a shot. And of course, we got a great DFS slate. It's a 39.5 point total, which when you just look at the Vegas implied total doesn't look all that exciting. But ultimately, I think we do have some really interesting values, some good playmakers. So let's dig in. You guys know what to do. We did just cross at this very moment, Neil, 100 likes before we even asked, which just, I think it goes to show the respect that people have for you, by the way. I'm serious about that. But guys,
or maybe the host of the show. But yes, we very much appreciate it.
It really does help us out. As Lofty likes to say, atone for your sins. Help the YouTube overlords understand what we're all about, what the community is all about here over at Stokastic. And it is a really cool time to get into the action, obviously, with such great sports happening during this holiday week. And, we've got some great offers to show in just a minute. But we got a super chat from Liker, someone who's always in chat with us. You all usually say playing two running backs from one team is something to do to get different on a showdown slate. Is that still the case tonight? It seems too obvious.
I think that there are two equally valid answers to that. One of them being, it's more likely to happen, right? More people are going to have it tonight, but also it is like it's going to project so well tonight. Like it's going to be better from a likelihood of hitting standpoint. It's going to be worse from you're not going to be the only one doing it, but I still think that it's going to be maybe more unique than it should be. Maybe not. I mean, if you look at our projections, AJ Dillon and Aaron Jones are both some of the top projected and point per dollar plays on this slate. So there is a good chance that anybody using optimizers is going to have a good amount of AJ Dillon or Aaron Jones. But there will be some people who group them out too. There's always going to be people who say, I don't want to have these two guys on the same team. They could group them out in the optimizer. Certainly not something that I'm going to do. So I do like those two. And then actually the other side of the game too. I mean, I think Cam Akers and Kyron Williams are going to be lower owned together than the Packers guys, and I actually think that's viable too. So yeah, I think you're right that it's going to be not as unique as it usually is, but I do think that with these combos, I think it might make even more sense than usual. Anyway.
Yeah, particularly with the brand name, if you will, of Aaron Rodgers, and the fact that Green Bay, especially neutral game scripts, loves to run the ball. So I'm certainly fine, especially on the Green Bay side. We'll get to the Rams in a minute here, but gosh, there have been games where the answer to the running back you want is absolutely no one in the Los Angeles backfield. And, we'll get into the nuances there in just a minute. But let's take a few minutes, talk about the game environment here. 39.5 point total. Right now, I was looking at it. There is a 75.5% chance, based on the Vegas implied totals, that Green Bay wins this game. That seems really high to me, to be completely honest, because it's not like Green Bay has been the world beaters. We're kind of used to them with Aaron Rodgers at the helm. They've been highly mediocre, whelming, maybe not underwhelming, but certainly only whelming.
Yeah, that does really surprise me too. I had not looked at that number. 75%. Yeah, that seems really high for this game, especially after we saw Baker Magic just last week. I mean, Baker Mayfield, what a fourth quarter he had last week. That was after I had just like tweeted out shitting on Baker Mayfield. Like the announcers were praising him all game. I was like, he doesn't actually look that great. They haven't scored a touch. Like they're just not doing that great. And then of course, immediately after I tweet, he's like, Baker Magic comes and they score touchdowns and it was all very exciting. But Green Bay favored by 7.5 in this game. It's a bit of a surprise to me.
It's certainly making it seem like Vegas thinks that Baker Magic you were talking about last week was a fluke. I think that's underselling it a little bit. I will admit, I'll raise my hand that I left the bar when there was a 98-yard drive ahead of Baker Mayfield. I went home early and I got some notifications on my phone that was a mistake. I digress. But look, the Rams' run defense is quite good, despite having defensive line injuries. Aaron Donald not there. They're 5th in rush DVOA. They're much better against the run than they are against the pass, where they're 23rd in Football Outsiders DVOA, which does lead to some problems because the Packers would like to get Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon going here. They're 7th in Football Outsiders run efficiency rankings. I think that is one of the main matchups we'll need to look at tonight. I don't think we're going to see Green Bay completely abandon the run at any time, but I do think there's a possibility where they just kind of have to shut it down. On the other side, too, we'll just talk about these running games back to back. The Packers' run defense is bad. 32nd in Football Outsiders rush DVOA. And if the Rams are able to capitalize, which they really haven't been able to this year, they could have a strong game, as strong as they've had this year.
Yeah, I feel like it's a really interesting spot with the Packers having such a terrible run defense and the Rams having such a terrible run offense. Like something has to give here, right? One of them is going to have success finally. I'm going to be taking some shots on these Rams running backs in this matchup, despite the fact I don't have a lot of faith in Cam Akers. Kieran Williams, honestly, is who knows? Maybe he's a good running back. I guess we'll have to see. We'll have a little bit more sample size here, but it's kind of a fun spot to watch this bad running offense against a bad running defense there. On the other side of it, it's really hard for me to quantify the Aaron Donald effect. Like it should be easier, I would think, for the Packers to run with no Aaron Donald on the other side. But I have no idea to what extent I should be factoring that in. To be honest, it's really hard to quantify. Like, does that make them, the 10th best rush defense? Like, that doesn't really matter all that much. I don't really know how much to factor it in, but certainly a great running game for the Packers. So it's kind of the opposite, really, like an elite running offense for the Packers going up against an elite running defense. So we got kind of the opposites on both of these.
I have a hot take here.
Let's hear it.
I think that Aaron Donald being absent from that defensive line makes the team slightly more balanced in terms of what they can cover between the pass and the rush, because Aaron Donald is arguably the best interior pass rusher on the planet. And therefore, you might actually say counterintuitively, they may cover the run a little bit better with Donald out because they give him free reign to rush the quarterback, as a foundation of their defensive line. I'm not sure that's true. I'm looking at their rush defensive grades on PFF. They're actually number 1 in rush defense right now. So that just shows you that, while we typically think of those big names stopping the pass, that isn't the case right now. And that means Aaron Rodgers is going to have a chance, in my opinion, to air it out to Christian Watson or some of these other secondary options. It's that time, though. With a 39.5 point total, we got to ask the people, or ask you and give the people an answer, what you think the shootout potential of this game is. Just off the top of your head, the percentage chance that you think this game shoots out, goes to 47 or more total points between these two teams today.
It kind of seems about average. So I think that I have a tendency when I see a low total like this, I'm more likely to choose a higher number. And when I see a really high total, I'm likely to take a low number. I think that I could see it with this game, though. I'd probably say, 26, 27%.
Okay, I was going with 30.
Okay.
We're a little bit higher than we were on Thursday night. Of course, we're going off the top of our head. And I know you've talked about how you don't really build with game narratives first. You build with an optimizer first, and then you kind of retroactively see what makes sense. You do create groups, of course. And if you guys want to see how Neil is building his lineups, he's got content on the Stokastic DFS channel and stokastic.com for you. But I know a lot of people, especially those using our lineup builder over at Stokastic, they want to use that narrative. What does the game look like when the game shoots out? Who is the beneficiary? And so it is definitely an important thing to bring up. I'll tell you what, another thing that's important to bring up. We're crossing the 200 threshold in the light category. And Jorge, who, by the way, Jorge, you see that badge next to Jorge's name. That means he's a member of the Stokastic community. You can do that too by clicking the join button. You get the free emotes as well. Not free emotes, the premium emotes. That badge and changes as the months go on. And he leaves us a super chat. Always so generous, man. Best leverage plays at captain tonight. And chat. This is the challenge for chat as well. 500 likes as appreciation of two legends on the show. That's too kind of you, Jorge. You are the legend, my friend. But let's talk about some contrarian options that look pretty good in our tools, Neil. I read your article today, but now that we've got some updates to our projections, what's it looking like now?
Yeah, and I think Jorge is asking this question for other people too. Jorge is so generous; he has access to these tools, so he knows exactly from a tool standpoint where the most positive leverage is there. And I'll tell you, it's in some of the usual spots with the at captain. The kickers, Mason Crosby, 2.8% projected ownership, 5.1% chance to be an optimal. We see a lot of positive leverage there. What do we have on? Now I can't even think of who the Rams kicker is. I know who it is.
We got Matt Gay, and then Mason Crosby looks good too as a leverage scorer.
Yeah, so both of them. So Matt Gay, 1.4% projected ownership in the captain spot, 2.9% chance to be an optimal. So both of those guys look like we've got some of the best positive leverage there. I see Tutu Atwell though also stands out to me as somebody, and he's a guy that is more exciting to me, which doesn't necessarily make him a better play to be clear. But I see Tutu Atwell as 4,400. So I can do the math here. He's going to be 6,600 in the captain spot, 3.8% projected ownership at the captain spot. No, I read that wrong. 6.2% projected ownership in the captain spot, 8% chance of being optimal in the captain spot. That one's a little bit more exciting to me because Tutu Atwell is a guy that I have interest in playing in a vacuum, just at relatively low ownership. So I like that one as well. I don't know what other leverage spots do we have here. I mean, we don't have anybody super low owned.
I think you can consider Christian Watson a leverage captain. Really, really fascinating slate from a captain perspective on DraftKings tonight, where if you look at our optimal lineup percentage, we have no player above 12% expected optimal captain, which is pretty low for a top player, but we have 6 players between 8 and 12%. So it gives you some pretty good flexibility for that position of which you can only play one. Either of the running backs fall into that category. Tutu Atwell was on my list as well. Alan Lazard would be yet another if you wanted to add one more. Thanks again, Jorge, for the super chat. And thank you all for making it absolutely rain emotes. The chat, as usual, on fire. Speaking of on fire, this BetMGM deal, you may have heard us talking about it. And we do pretty much every show because it is truly one of the best deals that we've had this season, and really that I can remember over the last few seasons. And I know that for a fact that this isn't going to be the same deal for very long. BetMGM, 2 months free when you make a pregame moneyline bet. Stokastic Plus Premium, 2 months free when you make a pregame moneyline bet over at MGM. Now, there are some important steps you need to take. You click the link in the video description below. Producer Mike is going to throw it up in chat when he gets a second as well. Then you need to make as I said, pregame money line. Don't make a futures bet. Don't make something for the next World Cup, because you won't get the access to Stokastic Plus Platinum until that bet actually settles And then after you've completed those steps, you will get access to all the tools we have, the lineup generator, the lineup builder, the boom bust tool that we're always referring to, the projections, the ownership projections. And of course, it's every single sport, guys. So talk about the possibility of making a profit on a $10 offer like this. The possibilities truly are endless, almost endless, would you say?
Endless, pretty much.
And here's the best part too. You can be as risky as you want in that first bet over at BetMGM, because you can get up to $1,000 risk-free bet when you make that first bet as part of this deal. So you can do it on a huge underdog, and even if you whiff, you just get that money back in your account as credit. So it's a really good time. Again, 2 months of Stokastic plus Platinum, an absolutely fantastic offer. Get into it today. 2 more super chats, and by the way, we are nearly at that 300 like mark. Jorge, did we set the bar too low? Neil, did Jorge set the bar too low?
Maybe. I mean, with Jorge backing us, I feel like we're on a like train right now, which I really appreciate, Jorge. Can I interject, because I got a piece of it. So Matt Butler, who watches these shows and sends me helpful information pretty regularly. I try not to crowdsource too much of what I say here. I've got a couple pieces where I'm crowdsourcing things that I read on Twitter, but Matt Butler has sent me a lot of reliable information in the past, so I trust him. He just pointed out Rams rush defense in DVOA in the past 2 weeks with Donald out, ranked 16th in the league. The Rams rush defense for weeks 1 through 12 with Donald in was 4th in DVOA. So they have been a little bit worse in terms of rush DVOA. Now that's a 2-week sample size. Who knows if we can count on that going forward, but I thought that was interesting. Thank you, Matt, for sending me that information. He's always good with really, really helpful information he sent me in the past during these shows. And then also I was telling you before the show, don't know how much we want to factor this in. Winky Christ, who everybody knows and loves from Twitter, is a huge Rams fan. And I thought this was interesting. He pointed out, he says, a lot of people won't know, Brandon Powell was sick all of last week. He was a true game time decision. He speculates that might be the reason that he barely played last week. Now, I have no idea if that's true, but I thought that was at least something to note, that maybe Brandon Powell, somebody that I had kind of written off because he just hasn't been playing, didn't see a ton of playing time last week. Maybe there's something to that. Maybe that makes him a little bit more viable if we're trying to find some low-owned options.
That is interesting. And you know what? That's exactly what I was going to do as I got off the stream, was to check the weekly splits. And so I am thrilled that information came through. That is supremely good crowdsourcing. Thanks again for that info. Super chat here from Jillian. Best cash game captain other than Jones. Nervous about Jones today. I mean, just looking at it, would you say Christian Watson?
All right, let me look. Where am I? Okay, here. Talking about, I assume we're talking DraftKings.
DraftKings.
Cash game captain, nervous about Jones. I mean, Dylan's pretty cheap, so I mean, it kind of depends on what else you can fit in your lineup. Yeah, Watson is certainly up there. I mean, we see positive leverage on Watson. He's a guy that's just been killing me. I've been not wanting. I've said on multiple shows I'm going to play Lazard instead of Watson. It always looks good. It's like Lazard getting all the volume, and then Watson just scores a touchdown on every touch. So I don't know. Like I just have a bias against Watson, I guess, because he keeps screwing me with his 100% touchdown rate. But
here's the thing that's really fascinating. A positive leverage score, yes, so fine for tournaments. But Jillian's asking about cash games. If you just look at the optimal percentage, which is the chance that this captain ends up as in the optimal lineup, Christian Watson is higher than all other players. I can't believe I'm saying this. All other players right now. Now, all the usual suspects are right up there with him. Aaron Jones, as you mentioned, Aaron Rodgers right there. A.J. Dillon's also there. The person who's not there right now and is considered way too high in salary tonight is Baker Mayfield. Of course, you can play him. That caveat, quarterback on a 1-game slate, but I think Watson is legitimately a decent cash game captain tonight.
Yeah, and that's a really good point, because you don't worry about leverage in a cash game setting. And as you said, Christian Watson has the highest likelihood, based on our sims, of being the optimal captain. So certainly a place that you could go. I think the other one that I would consider is AJ Dillon, just because of the price tag, and he's the second highest on that list. So I guess it would kind of depend on how safe the rest of your lineup looks. If you have Christian Watson at captain in a cash game setting and you're comfortable with the rest of your lineup, then I think it's probably Christian Watson. If you put him in there and it makes it hard to fit the puzzle pieces together, then I might pivot to AJ Dillon.
Makes sense to me. And then Vinny C Another Stokastic community member. You see that badge there. Looking good on you, Vinny C. Talking shootout. Does Ramsey have a tendency to play the side of the field with the better wide receiver or stay on one side? I'm actually not sure about that one myself.
I am not off the top of my head either, and I don't know that I know how to look that up.
So the other part is that if you look at grades in terms of defensive grades, he just hasn't been up there with the best defenders in the league anymore. Now, I will say he's number 7 among cornerbacks, so he's not like bad, but he may not be adjust all your rankings, adjust all your projections good. The bar is just very high for a cornerback. But if you told me he made a couple spectacular plays tonight, none of us would be surprised. It's just not a player we're changing all of our expectations. I'll say that. Now, let's do a little bit of an abbreviated version of this because we've gotten a lot of good super chats. But let's talk about Baker Mayfield in the context of obviously as a quarterback on a 1-game slate. But if you're honestly looking at how we see the slate, Mayfield looks overpriced a little bit and doesn't look fantastic in our tools.
Yeah, exactly. I think that, 10,000 for Baker. Yes, he had the magic in the last game in the final quarter, but Baker Mayfield, we have a larger sample size of him not being a quarterback who should be 10,000. So he just looks like he's a little bit too expensive. Actually, we do have positive leverage in the util. So we project him for 41% ownership, 44% chance to be an optimal in the util. So maybe a little bit more playable there. I mean, he's fairly neutral in the captain spot as well. 7.1% projected ownership, 6.7% chance to be an optimal. So really he's a neutral play. Looks like he should be in about 50% of your lineups. That seems about right. He is a quarterback on a 1-game slate. He has the better matchup of the quarterback. So there are a lot of things in Baker's favor here. And maybe he needed a change of scenery. I mean, he didn't look great on these other teams, but the Packers are 10th in terms of pass DVOA. Actually, no, Rodgers actually has the better matchup against the Rams. They're 22nd in terms of pass DVOA, but it's an okay matchup. I think Baker is playable. Yeah, around 50% of your lineups should probably have Baker in them somewhere. I mean, if you're playing according to what the tools would suggest. Based on our sims, he's in about 50% of optimal lineups.
There you go. And just to get a little bit of context to your to the question about Jalen Ramsey, according to PFF article 4 days ago, Ramsey has only gone out of his way to shadow longtime rivals DeAndre Hopkins, DK Metcalf, and Devontae Adams this season. With all due respect, they write, to rookie Christian Watson, it seems unlikely Ramsey is deployed that specifically on Monday. That's one analyst's take, but with access to that data, that's the way they're seeing it. Hopefully that gives you some context there. Now, you've talked about these running backs as well. It sounds like Akers and Kyren Williams. Ask Kyren Williams is on your radar today.
Yeah, absolutely. So Kyren Williams is one of those guys that he does not stand out in the tools as somebody who looks great. But for players like me who want to get unique in Showdown, you just want to play guys who are not getting a ton of ownership, who I can see a path to him doing really well. I think Kyren Williams is pretty clearly one of those guys. Like 5,800, the price tag is too high, so you are paying up a little bit to be contrarian with Kyren Williams. He played, I think, 30% of snaps in the most recent game. What I like about him is so he's a rookie running back on a team that has been eliminated from playoff contention. I think that there is some scenario where he sees a little bit more. He gets more opportunities going forward because they want to see what they have in this rookie running back now that they've been eliminated from playoff contention. On top of that, he is the pass catching back. So he's got some ceiling and floor just based on PPR points. You should see a few targets in this game. That would be helpful. He's obviously live to score a touchdown, and he's got a great matchup with this Packers defense that is 32nd in terms of rush DVOA. So I just think that there are a lot of positives for Kyren Williams here, and he's still not getting a ton of ownership. And I get it. That is because of that price tag being higher than it should be based on his role. Looking at his recent game log, it's actually he's gotten fewer snap shares. His snap share has gone down, which has been pretty shocking to me. He went from, in week 10, his first game of the year, he played 27% of snaps, jumped up to 55% in week 11, 70% in week 12, and then it came down to 28% and 30% the past 2 weeks. So what I would expect to happen has not happened so far. But I still think that that's a possibility that maybe, they at this point they say, you know what, let's just play the rookie, see what we have in him. And even if he plays 30% of snaps like he has been, he's still live to put up a score that would help you, just because he is, somebody who can get a few catches. He could score a touchdown. He's in a great matchup. So I think in a regular game script, there are scenarios that would work out for Kyren Williams. I think there's a chance that they decide to use the rookie a little bit more. So I actually like Kyren Williams a lot better than our Sims would have you like him.
I was going to bring that up, right? Especially because at the captain spot, we've got a 0.1%. That means 99.9% of the time, he is not the optimal captain. Unless you're playing, the largest of large field tournaments, which you are, Neil, you're probably just Xing out a player like that. It's too low probability, but you're kind of saying that this might be that one player where you're going to pump up the exposure to them because you got to be different in places like that. And you're seeing a chance for opportunity with the variations in the way that the Rams have used their running backs from week to week.
Yeah, exactly. And we got to always point out that caveat that whenever I'm talking about these plays, I'm talking about the largest field GPP. He's not necessarily somebody that I would love for a small field GPP as much. I still think these, depending on this, like if it's a 5,000 person GPP, he's still somebody who would be, I would consider I'd have some interest in. But
okay,
for the most part, I'm talking about the largest field GPPs. He's certainly not like a cash game play or like a really small field. I'm not playing him in a 65 person contest, but I think in like a 5,000 person contest, that's a large enough GPP that I would consider him. But in the largest field contest, I think that he's a better play. I do think I have interest there just because. I mean, it makes sense that the Sims are not going to love him. He hasn't really shown it. There's no like statistical basis for thinking that he should step up and see more carries. I don't know if there's been anything like, I don't know, Sean McVay has come out and said we want to get Kyren Williams more involved. I mean, maybe as coach speaks, just like they said about every player, but I think that just logically would make sense for him to get a little bit more run. And it could be that it's just been a little bit of a blip that his playing time has come down the past couple of games. So in this matchup, I also think that they might just want to run the ball more in general this week because they're playing this Packers defense. So I think there's some positives there. And there's no like statistical reason for me to think that. I just think logically would make sense for him to potentially see a little bit more run. And I think that it's a great spot for him if he does.
Yeah, I mean, look, if he gets anywhere near the 14 total opportunities, that's rushes and targets like he got 3 games ago, that's going to look really, really interesting at his salary. Are you getting down to Malcolm Brown, or is that kind of too low today? He's 800, but he's mostly a special teams player at this point on this team.
Yeah, I don't really think I'm going to get to Malcolm Brown. He played 28% of snaps in the most recent game. So maybe that's what ate into now, because Kyren Williams had already been not played much the week before. But yeah, mostly, I mean, the week prior, in week 13, Malcolm Brown wasn't used in the offense at all. He was just a special teams player in week 13. I was surprised to see that he got 18 snaps last week because I don't remember him doing anything with those snaps. So he's playable at 800. I guess he's always live to vulture a touchdown. I think Malcolm Brown, has been that guy who's been a touchdown vulture at times in the past. Maybe in a 150 set he's somebody that I would have in my player pool at 3.7% ownership. I think I'm talking myself into. I actually think at 3.7% ownership at 800. Yeah, I think I actually do kind of like Malcolm Brown in a large field GPP just because he does have that touchdown vulturing possibility for him, and that might pay off this $800 price tag in this game where I'm not expecting it to be very high scoring. I think that it's a little bit more live. So I think he's a fine play, but not somebody I want in 20% of my lineups. Actually, let me look up his participation in the last game. Because if he's getting 28% of snaps at 800, that would be interesting.
He ran 15 routes, 38% of the team's routes. That'll work. That'll work. Yeah. As an 800 salary player, that'll work, right? Again, we're leaning into the uncertainty at the position and the fact that there is a possibility that it is a matchup advantage, as bad as this rush team has been from an efficiency standpoint this year. It's a what the heck final flex play for sure with Malcolm Brown. Let's move to the wide receiver position, where obviously with Cooper Kupp out of the picture and the ghost of Allen Robinson also gone, this wide receiver core is a disaster zone. I mean, yes, I don't know what to say. Like Tutu Atwell is our highest projected. No, Van Jefferson by 0.6 or so. I guess these look okay in terms of leverage scores. We have them slightly positively leveraged, and they're fine tournament plays. But man, what are you seeing with the Los Angeles Rams wide receivers today?
Yeah, it's really tough to read just because they all look pretty good. I mean, it's a one game slate. None of these are guys that I would be really excited to play on a full slate, but on a showdown slate, I mean, the past 2 weeks, Ben Skowronek, 97% of snaps and 100% of snaps the past 2 weeks. Van Jefferson, 100% and then 97%. So they flipped there, but they're both playing basically every snap. So those would be the top two. Tutu Atwell played 47% in week 13, 61% in week 14. He has not been an every down player at all, but he's certainly a guy who's live to score a long touchdown, a deep ball. I think that he's still very much in play if he's going to see anywhere close to 60% of snaps. All of these guys are, not really high confidence plays, but certainly playable. And then Brandon Powell, as we mentioned earlier, he only played 22% of snaps last week. That might be because he was sick coming in, maybe didn't get, much practice in that week. He had played the 2 weeks prior 48% in week 12 and 41% of snaps in week 13. So if he gets back to that number, what do we have on the price tag for Brandon Powell? We've got him at, he's 2,200, coming in at 5% ownership. Yeah, so I would say Van Jefferson is probably my highest confidence play of the group, but he's also the most expensive. Maybe Ben Skowronek, the highest point per dollar confidence play of the group. I don't know. None of these guys are huge high confidence plays, but then Tutu Atwell, very interesting at 4,400. Certainly a guy who could blow up the slate with 1 or 2 big plays. But then I think, Brandon Powell, certainly playable in a large field GPP if you want to buy into the fact that, maybe he sees more snaps than he did last week.
I'm seeing it pretty much the same way. Van Jefferson and Skowronek have play the most in terms of snap share. If you look at percentage of team air yards and targets, it's kind of a 4-horse race between Van Jefferson, Skowronek, Tutu Atwell, and Tyler Higbee, the tight end we'll get to in a minute. After that point, you're really grasping at straws, especially when you consider the fact that we're not 100% sure what the run-pass splits are going to look like here. I do have to say that Tutu Atwell, it surprised me that he was going to be in that upper tier in terms of captain optimal probability today, but that's the way the tools are seeing this. Positive leverage score, both the captain and the flex spot. Look, I'll trust the tools when that's the case. One last thing I'll mention about this position. We do have some punt plays in Austin Trammell, Lance McCutcheon. I'll ask your opinion on those in a minute, but Brandon Powell, actually 4th, obviously way down the list, but 4th in terms of wide receiver total rushes this season. Used, I said, like a Debo light. We're not getting ahead of ourselves here, but extra opportunities possibly available for Brandon Powell, especially if he's feeling better. Close out this position and move us over to tight end because we got to move over to the Packers. We only got a few minutes to lock already.
Yeah, so I always like that kind of stat, first of all, with wide receivers, because it just shows that the team wants to get him the ball. If they're handing him the ball off, sometimes they see this guy as somebody who could break off a big play. So always a good sign. Tight ends, obviously we know Tyler Higbee is the tight end who we are going to be the most interested in on this slate. He's played 95% of snaps and had an 82% route participation rate in week 14. So just very involved in the offense. He only saw, I think, 3 targets in that game, the first game that he played with Baker Mayfield. So we have a very small sample size there, but it's a good sign that he had an 82% route participation rate. He's certainly a big part of the offense. He is, one of the most, I think he's right behind Van Jefferson in terms of salary, but he's probably also the second safest of the group, the second likeliest to put up a decent score. So, we kind of know who Tyler Higbee is. He's a fine boom bust. If he scores a touchdown, he's probably going to get there. He hasn't really been doing it on volume since the beginning of the year, but certainly live with that possibility of scoring a touchdown there. As far as other tight ends on the Rams, none of them are guys that I have a ton of confidence in. They see the field some. We've seen, Bryson Hopkins. Actually, recently it's just been only Bryson Hopkins. Nobody else has really been playing. Bryson Hopkins played a total of 4 snaps last week. So again, not a lot of confidence there. I think Tyler Higbee is the guy that's, the only guy that you need to have, or that I would really recommend having necessarily in a 150 set. And then Bryson Hopkins, I guess if you want to find somebody to get different, certainly he could score a touchdown and, that would be enough. But four snaps last week is not a great indicator.
Not good at all. And with Higbee, the man had 6 of his first 10 games this season. He had 8 or more targets, has not seen more than 5 targets in a game since 3 last week in his first game with Baker Mayfield. We'll close things out with a super chat. Michael asks, single entry, would you do Akers or Jefferson just straight up? So is not really talking about captain or anything, just in his lineup, one player, Akers or Jefferson.
Man, that's a really tough question without the context of like the rest of your lineup. I think that I lean Akers is more expensive. If you could play Jefferson and leave that salary on the table if it's a large field single entry GPP, I would go with Jefferson. But man, Akers has such a great matchup against this Packers defense. He's not a great running back, but he does have a great matchup. He has negative leverage both places. I'm going to go with Van Jefferson. He's cheaper. We've got positive leverage on Van Jefferson. I'll go there.
I like it. And Josh, also a member for 4 months. Congratulations, man. Good choices all around. Crosby or Packers DST in the flex? Oh, I know the answer to this, but I'll let you answer, Neil. DK GPP. We'll get to this group in a minute, but just a quick answer for him.
Oh, you know the answer. I mean, it's closer for me, I think, than it is for you. I think I'm probably going to go Crosby. We've got some positive leverage actually on both of them. Crosby's a little bit cheaper, 24% projected ownership, 28% chance of being optimal in the flex. So I think I'm going to go Crosby, but I guess it's closer for me than it is for you. What's your answer?
I'm going Crosby.
Okay.
I don't know. I have a feeling this is going to be a kick fest. It's just a hunch, but yeah. It's how I'm playing a bunch of my narrative-based lineups.
Nice.
We've got another awesome offer we got to talk about because No House Advantage has been offering such great contests, overlay, and now they've got a first match deposit bonus as well. When you click the link in the video description below, you can get started, and then you can get up to $50 in your account when you deposit that first deposit. And guys, there's a ton of ways to play over there. First of all, you can do the traditional pick'em games where you rank your prop-based bets in terms of confidence. Right now, the Monday Night Football 20K Showdown with 10K to first, 63% full, some serious overlay. The $5 entry 2K play action, 45% full. You're just not going to see overlay like this in big contests on other sites. You're just simply not going to do it, which is why we're always promoting them. They also have the new versus the house mode as well, which is more like traditional prop betting. If you're used to that, you can mix and match sports. They've got NBA, NFL, NHL, NBA, and you can 20x your entry fee when you get 5 out of 5 right. Take advantage of this. It looks awesome over there. Just really good stuff from No House Advantage. All right, the Green Bay Packers. They're like the definition of mid this year. They are just a mid team, but that doesn't mean they can't have a good game here. And if Vegas thinks they're going to win 75% of the time, there's probably going to be some fantasy goodness we need to find. Talk to me about Ron. It's been a down year compared to the 2 MVP seasons we've seen over the last 2, but still viable on this 1-game slate.
Yeah, I mean, certainly viable. He is still the better quarterback on a 1-game slate. We have some positive leverage on Aaron Rodgers we're talking about here in the util, 49% projected ownership, 53% chance of being optimal in the util, a little bit of negative leverage in the captain spot, 10% ownership, 9% chance of being optimal. I think he is certainly playable either place, though. He's been really connecting with Christian Watson. That's helped him a little bit. They've been scoring touchdowns, as I said, 5 times a week. So that helps Aaron Rodgers, brings up his average with Christian Watson scoring a touchdown on every touch. But then still, even if you don't want to play Watson, Alan Lazard looks pretty good. Randall Cobb is playable. So he's got stacking options. I'll say this about Aaron Rodgers. Not very mobile. I would always want to pair him with at least one pass catcher, preferably 2 if you've got him in the captain spot. You can include both Jones and Dillon as pass catchers for him in those pairings.
Glad you mentioned that. Yeah, that makes not only the stackability more viable if you want to move away from a player like Watson, but it just is going to help you be unique because people are going to be a little bit more tentative to do that. But capturing just a ton of the Green Bay Packers overall offensive upside, that's sort of the same logic that is getting me to Crosby when we were talking about that previous super chat. Just DFS fundamentals leading us to the most important players on the team projected to score more points. Now let's talk about this backfield. Probably one of the more interesting pieces you're probably going to have to get right in this puzzle that is the showdown slate. Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon are both viable. How are you looking at them both tonight? Obviously, you get some salary discount if you play Dillon, but Jones looks good here too.
Yeah, stuff. So I said earlier that AJ Dillon is somebody I would consider as a cash game captain. I'm kind of coming back off that a little bit, just looking through his game log. So in the most recent game, he had 18 carries and he ran 16 routes. So that is very good. I would take that any day. But the week before that, he had just 8 carries and ran 8 routes. The week before that, 6 carries, 17 routes. So I'm a little bit scared about the opportunities for AJ Dillon. It was just last week could have been an outlier. I'm not really sure. Maybe he's playing a little bit more because Aaron Jones has been a little bit dinged up. So maybe we see AJ Dillon continue to get heavier workload, but a little bit of a threat there. But I think that at 6,200, the price is clearly right. He has picked it up a little bit recently. He's had some good games, including that one in Chicago. Now he's 6,200. The price is still pretty low for AJ Dillon. So I still do have a lot of interest. And if you look at our tools, a lot of positive leverage on AJ Dillon. Yep. 9.5% projected ownership in the captain spot, 10.4% chance to be optimal. And then in the util, even better, 35% projected ownership, 43% chance to be optimal. So I do like AJ Dillon quite a bit. Aaron Jones looks a lot better for us in the util. 16% projected ownership in the captain spot with a 10% chance to be optimal. So pretty massive negative leverage on Aaron Jones in the captain spot. That's just the price tag being 11,200. He is the highest projected player on the slate. He's also the most expensive player on the slate. So hard to fit him in there at captain and still have a good lineup elsewhere. But in the util, we've got Aaron Jones, 51% projected ownership, 56% chance to be optimal. So we do have positive leverage on Aaron Jones there. I do think that you can play both these guys together. Again, if they're having success running the ball, which this is not the best matchup in the world, but we have seen the Rams defense a little bit worse with Aaron Donald out against the run. So I guess that's a positive. If they are having success, the Packers have done it before where they just run it and run it and run it. So I think that it's viable to play both these guys together. But yeah, I think that they're both some of the better projected. As I said, Aaron Jones, the best projected player on the entire slate, and then AJ Dillon among the best point per dollar plays.
Among the best point per dollar plays, among the best expected fantasy point per dollar plays. So just looking at the value of his opportunity, I think you could say AJ Dillon looks good. And then obviously a positive leverage score, particularly high at the flex position. Viable a captain in large field tournaments or in tournaments in general, I would say. But there's always that risk of ruin with Aaron Jones being utilized much more in the passing game of the two. Are you going to Patrick Taylor at all? Elevated from the practice squad, and in a corresponding move, Sammy Watkins released as well.
I don't think I'm going to Patrick Taylor at all. Like they've just got. I don't think that he really gets any run unless there is blowout, in which case maybe he would play. But I don't think. I think if I'm going to a cheap running back who's going to be low owned, I'd prefer to go to Malcolm Butler.
Makes sense. Malcolm Brown. Malcolm
Brown. Yeah.
The guy made the catch in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, right. Yeah, Malcolm Brown.
I'm joshing you. You guys, we got to get to 420 likes. We've stalled at 340 something, and that's just not going to work. Neil, you know this. Like, there's usually a lull, people getting their lineups in, but now we're coming back around. We're hanging out again. We got 15 minutes to lock. Exactly 15 minutes to lock. I bet there are people out there, Neil, who just haven't quite found the like button yet, and maybe just this little bit of a coaxing can help them.
I think there are people out there that will find the like button after this little bit of a coaxing. Because as you said, people have been busy. I get it. They've been making their lineups. Now people have hopefully got most of their lineups in, can relax a little bit. I say this as I, of course, have 0 of my lineups and I'm still working on them a little bit. But hopefully other people who are not doing shows as they're making them have gotten closer to being done, and they can just now relax and hit that like button for us.
See, clutch trades I found it. That is the kind of relief. Usually that kind of relief is reserved for something like Pepto-Bismol or, something like that. And now, you're helping the people out. You're just, we're guiding them to what they already knew that they wanted. Speaking of which, guys, if you have been kind of on the fence about some of these deals from our awesome sponsors, I get it. Everyone's in a different spot right now. If you're a new user, I think we have some of the best tools in the business. In fact, I know we have some of the best tools in the business for every single sport. And I got to say, the NBA crew over at Stokastic is just on a heater, just dominating right now. And if you're a new user, you can get 3 days of the NBA product free. There's no better week in the NBA to get this deal, guys. Like, we got the Christmas Day slate. This is awesome. This is just awesome. A really cool deal from the NBA Stokastic crew. It's a risk-free trial. That's all we can say because it's $0. NBA DFS ownership projections, the 1v1 tools, lineup generator tool, top stacks tool. That link is in the video description. All the stuff you know and love from our NFL streets over on the NBA side. It's top notch. It's really all we can say. Check it out today. I think you're going to really like it over there. All right, guys. Green Bay Packers wide receiver Christian Watson has the most insane touchdown rate you can possibly imagine. It will come down at some point, but he looks freaking great in our tools. Like, I don't know what else to say. Like, he looks really, really good in our tools. Talk to me about Watson and talking to me about some of the leverage plays we have at the wide receiver position outside of Christian Watson today.
Yeah, I mean, so as I've said, he's been the bane of my existence. I keep expecting it to come down, but it could come down, like it could cut in half and he's still scoring a touchdown every game. So he's still going to look great, even if his touchdown rate does cut in half. He's just been, there's a connection there between Rodgers and Watson. Rodgers clearly trying to get the ball to Watson, and he's done a lot with it. So hard not to see the upside there. And this is a spot where, you know, maybe I just got to set my biases aside and let the tools guide me. And the tools tell me Watson is under-owned. We've got him projected for 10.5% captain ownership, 12% captain optimal, 36% util ownership, 39% util optimal. I will say this. It wouldn't surprise me to see those his ownership come up quite a bit. Like we said this before on, you know, a few weeks ago. We had a Packers showdown slate, maybe a couple weeks ago, and he had been crushing it. And we said, I think Watson's actually going to come in significantly above Lazard, and he did. I think that could still be the case. People love clicking this guy's name. They've watched. They're like, he scores a touchdown every game. How do you not just have this guy somewhere in your lineup? So he is going to be pretty high owned. We're only projecting him for, you know, 46% total ownership. I would guess it's going to be at least above 50%, maybe somewhere in that 60% range. Usually if I'm thinking differently than the tools, I'm wrong, but this is another spot where I think I expect it to be higher than we have it projected for.
Your analysis was phenomenal, but we had some exciting developments. We hit 500 likes. We've blown past 500 likes. We're still rising. We're still climbing. And our man Jorge, just feeling the holiday spirit, gifting 20 subs, making it rain on the chat. It's a great day to be great. It's a great day to be a member of Stokastic. We're happy you're here. We're really happy you're here. And yeah, Christian Watson, look, it's when we were looking at building out the projections for this Packers team, I was kind of adamant that it was possible that Watson could see a 20% target share right off the bat. Now, it hasn't been that high, and it took a while. It obviously took a while. But look at this consistent usage. 8 targets, 6 targets, 3 in the red zone, 6 targets the next day, 6 targets the next game after that. 90+% snap share, 23 to 25%, or so 23 to 25 routes run per game, above 80% over the last 3 weeks. The only other player I think sees anywhere near the targets and air yards that Christian Watson gets is Allen Lazard. And so I think he is that leverage play for me if you want to pivot off of Watson. Less excited about all other players, to be honest. But I think Lazard is a viable option. We've got him actually projected, in the flex spot at double-digit fantasy points and not that far behind Watson. The salary discount is a little less than I would like, but he's definitely a solid play and has a positive leverage score in the tools.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think that Lazard, because we've seen Christian Watson, it's once again, these two are kind of always competing with each other, and I think more people want to click that Watson name. So I think Lazard will be a lot lower owned. I mean, we actually have them pretty close in terms of ownership. I expect that Watson is going to get a lot more ownership than Allen Lazard. So that makes me like Lazard a little bit better. I hear what you're saying, though. Like, maybe I just need to stop fighting it. Like, everybody else is just like, yeah, why not just click the name of the guy who's going to score 2 touchdowns every game? And I get that. Maybe I need to buy in at some point, but I'm fighting it a little bit longer. I think I'm going to prefer Allen Lazard here.
Interesting. I just think that there is a possibility. While I'm pretty darn sure we're seeing a little bit of an overperformance from Christian Watson. There has to be a reason they didn't do more from a front office expectation about what Christian Watson could do. You know, once you give away a player like Devontae Adams, it means that you think there is some sort of premier receiver on the roster post-draft, and the only person we can point to that possibly being is Christian Watson. So to me, that's viable enough. Talk to me about Randall Cobb, whose projection is like 4 to 7 points. We've got Romeo Doubs available in that same projection range. These are kind of mid-tier options. Are you playing any of them, or are you playing any Samari Torrey? Round out the position for us.
Yeah, I definitely have some interest in Randall Cobb. He's just a guy who's going to be on the field about 50% of the time. Wouldn't be that surprising to see him get 5 or 6 catches. If he gets one in the end zone, it's probably going to be enough to pay off that 5,600 price tag. So he's not getting much ownership. We have projected for under 10% ownership just because the price tag is a lot higher than when we saw him at 200 a few weeks ago, and it was like the biggest smash spot of all. Now he's 5,600. People aren't going to want to click the name as much. Randall Cobb, certainly not an exciting name to click. So I think he's definitely viable at under 10% ownership. Definitely some interest there. Romeo Doubs, let me look up he hasn't been playing, right? Is this his first game back from injury? No.
Yeah, he's been out for a while. Look, the expected ownership is less than 1%. The expected optimal is less than 1%. This is a super punt play. I would be surprised if you needed him today, but I do think you see him get into the game a little bit more. And outside of Lazard and Watson, I just think you see a general rotation, with the exception of Cobb, who probably has a pretty safe amount of snaps available to him.
Yeah. So, yeah, Romeo Doubs got hurt in that Detroit game, only played 1 total snap. Prior to that, he was playing 80 to 90% of snaps every game. You think there's any world where he comes back and plays a significant number of snaps here?
It's in the range of outcomes.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what they really think of him in the building. You know, he himself is a 4th round pick, so they obviously think he's going to be a valuable member of the team. And you're right. Like we saw before the injury in week 9, he had just come off a game where he ran 87% of routes, 2/3 of routes in 6 straight games before he got hurt. Yes, so it's definitely in the range of outcomes. Couldn't tell you if that day is today, though.
Yeah.
We finish with the tight end position. We got Big Bob Tonyan. Do we? No. No. Am I crazy?
Yeah, I think Bob Tonyan is probably playable here. It is
for some reason I thought
Tonyan.
Josiah DeGuara was the only one available. Yes, we do. We got Bob Tonyan. I had a brain fart. We got Mercedes Lewis, the ageless wonder. Oh man, I don't know if we got to get here.
I think Tonyan is the one that I want to play. He's played more than 50% of snaps in each of the past 4 games. He has only seen 10 targets in that span in the past 4 games, so not been targeted as much as you would like to see from Robert Tonyan, but I think that he's the guy who can spike an upside. Now, obviously, Josiah DeGuara, Mercedes Lewis can score a touchdown, and that'll be enough at their price tags. But Robert Tonyan is a guy who's likeliest to do it just from volume alone. So he's the only one who's like relatively safe. But I think those other guys are playable in a 150 set in a large field GPP.
All right, I got a new question for you as we round out all the skill position players and we move to the infamous defense and kicker section. As we have 5 minutes here before lock. If you had to have one of your Neil's nobodies today, your favorite Neil's nobodies for large field tournaments, let's say on DraftKings, who's your favorite if you had to choose one?
I think it's Kyren Williams, just because I don't think a lot of people want to click that name. He's clearly too expensive for his role, but he is going to have some role. He's going to play, I think, most likely, I think he's going to play at least like 30% of snaps, and I think that he has upside for more in a great matchup, and he has the PPR upside, so it's got to be Kyren Williams for me.
I like that call a lot. I'm actually going to go with he's not really a nobody, but I think what do you think would the salary cutoff be for a nobody? Because it has to be low salary. Because it has to be
low projection. Okay. Sorry, low projected ownership is the only real.
Okay.
Kyren Williams isn't low salary. He's just low projected ownership, which is why I am buying in.
All right, I'm going to say Tutu Atwell if that fits the mold for you. All right, let's talk defenses and kickers. In a phrase, they're always viable. Of the big four, do you have any favorites here? Let's start with the defenses here. Obviously, the favored Packers are the one that just straight up probably looks better, but where are you going with those defenses in your lineups today?
Yeah, I mean, the Packers project the best out of anybody. They have the matchup with Baker Mayfield. I think that it's a fine spot, but they are the most expensive. It's probably Mason Crosby if I have to just go with one. As we talked about, he is. I mean, we were asked this question, right? We already had the question posed to us: who do you prefer, Packers or Mason Crosby? As you said, there is a real possibility that this just becomes a kick fest here, and so I think Mason Crosby probably my favorite of the group. But honestly, Matt Gay looks pretty good too. The Rams are relatively inexpensive. I think that, as you said, all of them are viable plays here. I think that if I had to rank them, I would probably go Mason Crosby first, Packers defense, or no, probably Matt Gay second, then Packers defense, then Rams defense.
So it's funny that you kind of switched it up there, because as you said, if I had to rank those four, I was like, what do I put two? What do I put three? And I was debating those same two. Obviously, we got to talk about variance. The range of outcomes for these for these four players is different than the skill position players. And look, an underdog defense, even one on a team that's only projected to have a 25% chance of winning, can still be very viable. We have a total of 2 points in median projection differential. We got people in chat like Sean saying that there's going to be a bunch of turnovers tonight. We've certainly seen that on some showdown slates. And let's just look at the tools. Like, both Packers players in the flex in terms of Crosby and the Packers defense have very positive leverage. The Rams in Gay and the Rams defense look good as well, just right at their expected ownership in terms of optimal percentage. I really don't see a problem with playing any of them. Would you play both defenses in a lineup together?
Yeah, I mean, certainly it's not the first place I would go, but I think that it's viable on a slate like this with possibility of being a very low scoring slate. I think that these defenses certainly are live to both be optimal. As much as any game, I think that it's viable here. I just read in chat and I had to double check that this is true. It's magic. Says Higbee still looking for touchdown number 1 on the season. I had to look that up because he was so good early on in the year, but he's right. 0 touchdowns so far this year. He had a ton of catches early on in the year. He had some really nice games from a PPR standpoint, but 0 touchdowns so far this year. That's pretty interesting. Not really. I don't think it's necessarily predictive. Maybe, I mean, obviously somewhat it's predictive, but it certainly is live to score a touchdown at any point.
He's at 8 red zone targets. Less than a dozen tight ends have had that many red zone targets this season. He's only caught 2 of them. Feels like that's a little bit of variance. That's a great little stat there, but yeah. Not having touchdowns at the dumpster fire that is the tight end position is going to hurt you. But he's definitely viable tonight. We're at 1 minute until lock here. Any final words for the people? And why don't we give a score prediction as we head out here, Neil?
Final words are good luck in your DFS. Good luck in your best ball. Good luck in your season long. I'm sure a lot of people have a lot writing on this game tonight, as do I. I'm sure you do too, Matt. So it's a pretty fun game, just even outside of DFS, but also now we throw in the showdown. It will be really fun to watch. So good luck to everybody. Final score prediction. I'm going to go with Rams 57, Packers 3. Skull.
I'm going to say Packers 24, Rams 21. Aaron Rodgers squeaks it out, but looks mediocre. This has been a whole lot of fun. The Showdown Shaman himself did not disappoint by any stretch. Thank you to all of you in chat who made it rain emotes. Hit the like button already. Make sure to do it on the way out as well. And follow Neil at PlayerQ DFS. Producer Mike as well. Amazing shows as well. Follow him at AwesomeYo. And of course, you can follow me if you like at Draftaholic. We are at lock. That's it for this Monday Night Football live before lock. And that's it for the Stokastic live shows today. But tomorrow we've got NBA, NFL, and NHL strategy shows at 10, 11, and 2. And we got the NBA Deeper Dive and live before lock with the crew starting at 5 Eastern. Oh, it's such a good time of year for sports and for everything else. For Neil and Mike, I'm Matt. Let's win some money. See you guys later.